Okay, so setting up modular force field is pretty simple. You do not want to just run the dev scripts inside modular force field itself, although that will give you a working workspace. Anytime the dependencies go to update, it will slow down your process because you'll have to reload up the workspace every single time or manually go in and update the dependencies. So the preferred method I use is to load up VoltsEngine, which you can get to, if you've got it favorited, you can get through to here. If you're using another Git client, you can do whatever. I prefer SourceTree, but for this tutorial, we're going to use Git for Windows, since it's the preferred one. But we have to go to BuiltBrokenModding here, and then go find VoltsEngine. So you want to clone down VoltsEngine, and you pick anywhere. I'm going to use my desktop as my preferred location when I'm doing these tutorials. You would most likely want to be putting it in a common dev folder with all your other projects. That way it's easier to get to. You also may want it to use a centralized location for VoltsEngine because several of the other projects do use this dependency. ICBM is one of those. You've got Assembly Line, Armory, Basic Industries. This is where I also prefer to use a huge setup like this, but we'll cover this in another video. But this is cloned down, so now we want to clone down modular force field system, which you can get off of the same BuiltBroken repo here. And clone it down, and of course I'm going to put it on the desktop as well. Now there's two approaches to actually creating the workspace. I'm going to use the more simpler approach of the two, which is to just run the dev scripts. Alternatively, you can import the project as a Gradle project and load it up that way. It does work. I don't use it often, but I know it. I have used it before. But see, we've got both these up. You also want to switch VoltsEngine to the, well, okay, it's already on the dev branch. Sometimes this will clone down the master branch. The master branch is for release only. Development branch is what we actually build everything off of. It gets changes quicker than everything else. And the modular force field system is only got one branch. If it has a development branch, you want to use the development branch. But let's get these on the desktop here, move them over here, centralize them. Go into VoltsEngine. There'll be a BuiltBroken scripts folder, and you want to run the dev.bat, and yes for IntelliJ, no for Eclipse. The Eclipse setup I am not sure if actually works. I only use Eclipse for patching things these days. I don't use it as a main development workspace anymore, because you get IntelliJ. IntelliJ actually is much nicer, better package structuring. Not as easy to use. There's a bigger learning curve with IntelliJ, but when you get past the learning curve, it actually functions much nicer than Eclipse. And it still has Eclipse compiler in the background, so you get the benefit of Eclipse compile time using IntelliJ. Both are open source projects, so you can use them. And let's actually close this down so we don't get confused here, and wait for this to build. Okay, so it looks like it finally finished. It took about 7 minutes for it to build on my computer. It varies depending on length, because it's downloading dependencies. Sometimes the dependencies don't download. It'll retry a few times and eventually gets it. You can set up a local cache of dependencies and it usually goes faster then. But that gives us a workspace to work with. If you click this IPR file, that'll load up the VoltsEngine workspace, which may take a couple seconds to load because first time loading anything is slow. This should give us VoltsEngine, and VoltsEngine should have downloaded all of its dependencies and the access transformer should have run. So let's see, packages. Yep, looks good. So next part of this, really simple because we're basically done at this point, is we just got to add modular force field. So you go up here, you click the green plus and hit new modular, hit next, find modular force field, which is on my desktop of course. So you can select it however you want. You can go in the source folder. I'm going to select the entire hierarchy here. And then I prefer to prefix my mods with mod, which that'll rename the file location there. You just reset it back. And you want to add dependency to VoltsEngine, hit apply. Then go over to the source set, correct the sources, label resource folder as a source, and the Scala folder as source. Now, eventually the Scala folder will change to a Java folder in case you're watching this video down the road. But that's everything there, and all you have to do is go up to the run configs, hit edit run configurations, go to the client, mark modular force field as the thing there, and hit that on there. Now there's some extra configurations you can add to this, but we'll cover that later. But let's hit run just to make sure this is going to work. Although it's probably not going to work. It's probably going to crash because the current version of modular force field is not compilable. But if it can get at least partway in, well, it won't even get partway in. I forgot to do one step. So when you set up the VoltsEngine workspace, there's one thing that IntelliJ always forgets to do with its source sets, is there's an API folder that must be marked as a source. And let me check everything else. Yep, everything else is marked. That should work there. Now, of course, modular force field is not going to work, but that's the setup right there. Run VoltsEngine, get it all set up, then attach modular force field to it.